Most teachers have a consistent and effective way to call their classroom to attention. But how does that change in a one-to-one classroom where there's laptops or tablets or other devices between the student and the teacher? I'm Patrick Green, co-author of Classroom Management in the Digital Age, and in this video, we're going to look at how to call your class to attention in a one-to-one classroom. So we know that there's less distraction and disruption in classrooms where students know what to do. And so well-managed, smooth operating classrooms typically have procedures with expectations where students will know what to do when it comes to walking in the classroom and finding the learning objectives, or passing in papers, or putting your name or heading on a paper. And to get our students to know what to do for these types of procedures, we have to teach the procedure explicitly and let students know our expectations. We then need to give students an opportunity to practice and actually do the procedure. And then we can give them some feedback and correct and reinforce. And then, of course, to really get it to stick, we need to review it or do it frequently and be consistent so that students can practice it and it just becomes part of what they do in a classroom. To call your class to attention, you need a signal, and your students need to know what's expected of them when they hear that signal. Traditionally, teachers have used some sort of like a chant or a call and response. The teacher says something, the students repeat it or say something else in return, and they focus on the teacher. Or a teacher, really traditionally, has rung a bell. I used to say, heads up, like a ball was being thrown at students and they needed to look up to catch it, like they needed to catch the new information and be ready for it. But now, with devices in classrooms, it's a little trickier, because previously students could hear the signal and they knew the expectations. Those expectations were eyes on the teacher, hands off the pencil. Well, now with screens on every desk, it's a lot more enticing to go back to the device than it was to go back to the pencil. So we also need to make sure that our students understand what to do with the device. So we're going to actually suggest that your signal teaches the expectations or reinforces the expectations of what to do with the device. So with middle school students, I used to say simply 45 your screens. And that meant take your screen and turn it to 45 degrees. This would keep the screen out of their eyesight. But then, of course, there's the problem of them getting their fingers back in there on the keyboard. With third graders, I started using Sharkum, which meant take the screen and turn it to 45 degrees so they couldn't see the screen anymore and it looked like a shark. Now, in both of those cases, I ended up realizing that my students would kind of lower in their seat the more I talked, and lower and then get their hands back on the keyboard and see the screen. And so I started changing that to and turn the laptop towards me. So you can see that I had a signal and I had clear expectations of what to do with the device. Of course, I also had the expectations of eyes on me, you're not talking, and those sorts of things. But the device is really the distractive element. And so really focusing on that with my signal helped. You could do it different ways. You could say, Pac-Man your Chromebook, or with a tablet device, it's something totally different. Maybe it's tip the top or flip the iPad, or whatever you want to say to get them to not be able to see that screen any longer so that they can focus on you and the information that you're about to give them. One of the little benefits to saying 45 your screen versus close it completely is it also signaled to students that I'm just going to interrupt you for a second and you're going to be able to get right back to work or whatever engaging thing that you are doing. And I'm not going to keep you from using your laptop anymore. Now, some teachers have opted to then have a second signal that actually lets students know you're putting it away. And I've heard things like de-screen or dock it, and that could be used to leave the classroom. I've also seen teachers turn on and off the lights, and that's if they have students with headphones in. It's no matter what you say with your signal, they might not hear it. And so the on and off of the lights is helpful in that regard. There are many ways to signal to your students, but it's important to have that signal and also have those expectations. And then, of course, like with any procedure that you're teaching, you actually have to teach it explicitly. You need to let students practice it. And then if you can be consistent, you can give that feedback and you can be reviewing it all the time, and so that it just becomes part of what happens in your classroom. All right, folks, that's it for today. I hope that you found that tip helpful. And if you did, there's a playlist of other classroom management tips and tricks you can check out. Also, over at our website, cmdigitalage.com, we've got all sorts of resources that might be helpful to you, so you can check them out over there. All right, thanks for watching.